How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Gimel, Daf 3 of Masechta Ksubis. Friends, Daf 3 L'maaseh, it's not that hard. What do you want me to tell you? I don't know. We continue sort of related to what we did yesterday, and then we go weiter. I don't know. It's not that hard. Friends, let's do it. So, we're going to start on Daf Gimel. Yeah, we're also doing that much. We're starting kind of 10 lines into the page, and we're probably going to end 10 lines from the bottom of the page. So, okay. Those say, so what are we talking about? So what we're talking about is that yesterday we had said that, there was an opinion that said that when it comes to mizainis, right, that when it comes time to get married, when a fellow and a fella get married, for anybody who's new to Babylon Talmud, so fellow is a boy and a fella is a girl. I was thinking recently maybe we should make it felala to make it kind of like we did with Kistrato and Kistradala. Maybe we should do fellow and felala just to make it clear that we're talking about, right, that it's a fella, not a fellow, but I think it works well enough. So a fellow is a boy and a fella is a girl. I don't know. Got to be careful about the inside jokes spilling over. So right. So if a fellow and a fella get married, so then and the fellow is responsible to pay for the fella's food. Now, if it's time for them to get married, right? They were engaged for a year. And now it's time to get married, and for whatever reason, there's a delay. So we say if there's onus, right? So then, or we want to say at least, that if there's onus, then, if for example, right, we said that Basula gets married on Wednesday. What if 12 months is up on a Sunday? So what do you want me to do? He's ready to get married, but they have to wait till Wednesday. So he doesn't have to pay for food till Wednesday. Fine. So Rav had said yesterday at the end of the Daf, that similarly, when it comes to I'm sorry. Yesterday, Rava wanted to say the opposite, right? Well, the Indian get in enoke, that even though onus is relevant in the context of marriage, it is not relevant in the context of a get. And if there's some kind of onus, I don't know if he says that if he doesn't come home in 30 days, so then it's a get. So and then he ends up in the hospital and he's not able to get home. So says Rava, look, onus is irrelevant when it comes to getting, and even though he was in the hospital, it's still a get. It's still a get. So now we want to actually say the opposite. Maybe we could say that actually, according to Rava, that onus is shaykh when it comes to getting, i.e., if there's an onus, i.e., if he's in the hospital or something, right? So he says it can be over. If he doesn't come home in 30 days, then the divorce. So he ends up in the hospital. So the get is null and void because there's onus begin, right? If there's something out of his control that comes up, so it's relevant and it'll make the get null and void. So I'm about 10 lines into the page. It says to those who say Amar Rava says Rava v'chein le'inyan getting. That similarly, with regard to a bill of divorce, that if there's some kind of ones, something that happens beyond his control, so then the bill of divorce is null and void. Alma, Ksav Rava, yesh onus begin. So, okay, that would mean that Rava holds that there is onus when it comes to getting. That if there's an onus, then the get is null and void. Meisve, we have a kasha. Areza gitech, im lo basi mikam vach nimosa chodesh. Right, we're going to basically be repeating things that we learned yesterday. That this is your bill of divorce. If I don't come back within the next, if in 12 months from now you don't see me, so then we're going to be divorced. And he dies within that time, within those 12 months. He doesn't show up, he dies. Eno get, so the get is bottle. Meisu de eno get, hachalo hareza get, which we want to imply that if he dies, so then the get is bottle. But if he finds himself in the hospital, it's still a good get, which seems to be a kasha on Rava, who says that if he would find himself in the hospital, the get would be bottle. So Rava will say, no, really I'll say to you that just like when he dies within the 12 months, the get is batul. So also, if he finds himself in the hospital, and now therefore he can't get home, so also the get is batul. V'higufa kamashman, the reason why we mentioned specifically that if he dies within that time, the get is batul, is it's Dafka teaching us that exactly. Punkt, that idea. The ein get la'achar misa, that there is no get la'achar misa, meaning it could have mentioned if he's in the hospital also, then the get is batul, but it Dafka mentioned that if he dies within that period of time, then the get is batul, to teach us that a get cannot kick in after a fellow's dead. So in get la'achar misa atana lereisha, but we already know in get la'achar misa. That's from an earlier Mishnah Masechta Gittin that we saw yesterday, that says that a get cannot be applied after the fellow dies. So dilma la'afukim d'arbasenu, but nonetheless, still maybe we dafka need it to teach us that if he dies, then the get is batul, to the exclusion of the rabbis that we saw yesterday, that they said that the date that's written in the get basically teaches us that from that date they are divorced, i.e. retroactively, and therefore even if he dies, it would still be a valid get, and therefore what this Mishnah is coming to teach is that no, if he dies, then the get is batul, it's invalid. But we want to say that the same really would apply to if he ends up in the hospital, that also the bill of divorce would be batul. Toshma, comment here, me'achshav m'leibasi mikan vad shnei masar chodesh. The fellow says that he says to his wife, you're divorced from right now, from this very moment, if I do not come back within the next 12 months. If I do not come back in 12 months, then we are divorced from this moment. And sure enough, he dies within those 12 months. Hare is a get. So it is a get because the get is from now, from before he's dead. My love, huwa din lichala. And we want to say that the same would apply to if he gets sick, and that's why he doesn't show up. I.e., that if he gets sick, then the get is nonetheless valid, right? Just like we're saying, if he dies during that time, the get is valid. So also if he gets sick, the get is valid, unlike Rav, who says that if he gets sick, the get would be batul. Lo meizdavka lo nichale de tipo kamiyovim, as we saw yesterday, that no, we can argue that specifically if he dies, the get is valid, because the point that he's making when he says that this is the get from right now, if I don't come home within 12 months, is the point is that he's saying it so that in the event that something happens to him, she shouldn't have to deal with yibum. However, if he gets sick, he would want to stay married, right? Basically, he was saying, look, if I die, he has his wife's best interest in mind, basically. He loves her, he wants to stay married to her, and you say, look, but I also realize that if I die, it's going to be a big mess for you because we don't have kids. So he says, look, if I don't come home in 12 months, this is your get from now. And if he dies within that time, it's still a good get, because it's to her benefit that she doesn't have to deal with yibum. But maybe if he ends up in the hospital, and and that's why he couldn't make it, he would like to stay married to her, and therefore maybe the get would not be batul, and therefore the get would be batul, right? Would not be chal, right? Meaning Rava would say that in the event that if he's in the hospital, then the get would be batul and not be chal, because he still intends to go back and stay married to his wife. Tashma kamir mi'ahuda amar lehu. Right, there was a story also that we saw yesterday that the fellow says to the people, if I don't come back within 30 days, so then my wife is divorced. Also, Besov Tlos and Yomen, he's coming, it's the last day, his mom is hustling, and there is a stream that is separating him and his wife, and the boat is not there. And he's screaming, and he's yelling, and he's dancing, and he's doing whatever he can to get the people's attention. And he's saying, look, I'm here. I want to stay married to my wife. And Shmuel says, tough nuggies. And so what do we see? We see that even though there was onus, the get is still a good get. So onsa de shriach shiny. So the Gemara says, like we said yesterday, no, that was different because it was sort of foreseeable, right? He knows that there's a stream by his house. He knows that he needs a boat to get across it. Right? He knows that this was a possibility that he might get into trouble if he comes back at the last minute. That since he should have at least made some kind of a condition, right? Maybe worked it into the deal that, look, if I'm on the other side of the river and the boat's not there and I get stuck, like, that doesn't count, right? But he didn't. He was irresponsible. Therefore, he's divorced. But therefore, the get is still valid. But Rava would argue, or we could, according to what we're saying now, we could argue that Rava would say that if there's some kind of onus, then the get would be batel. Okay, so we have two kind of ways of understanding Rava. Omar Shmuel bar Yitzchok Loshanu ela mitakonis Ezra ve'elach sheim batidinin kvun ela b'sheni v'chamishi. Says Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchok that when we say that a basula gets married on Wednesday, that specifically after the takana of Ezra, that the courts are in session on Mondays and Thursdays. Avokodin takanas Ezra, but prior to the enactment of Ezra, shubatidinin kvun b'chol yom, that they would have the bezdin every day. Well, then Isha Nisa is b'chol yom. Well, then a woman can get married any day, because there's always the next day that he can go to bezdin, right? Meaning we said that the reason why Basula's Nisa is Yoma Revi on Wednesdays is that if there's a Tainas Basulim, so then he can go to bezdin on Thursday. But says Shmuel bar Yitzchok, in the olden days, when they would have the bezdin in the cities every day, so then you can really get married on any day, because you can always go to bezdin the next day if relevant, any day of the week. Takonas Ezra, where am I? Kon Takonas Ezra, my Dahav. Oh, so fact the Gemara says, I don't understand. Why are you telling me about, but before the time of Ezra they can get married any day? Who cares? Like, it's not Lamaisa. What? Like, why are you saying? Why are you bringing this up? Like, okay, it's very sweet that before the Takana of Ezra, you can get married any day. But nowadays, Lamaisa, there is the Takana of Ezra. Like, what practical relevance is there for our lives to tell us that, oh, by the way, before the time of Ezra, they can get married any day? Mazel tov, great for them. Hachi kamar. This is what it's saying. That if nowadays there are places where they have courts in session every day of the week, well then Isha Nisa is b'chol yom, well then a woman can get married any day of the week, even nowadays. But what about, didn't we say that we need, that the reason why Basula gets married on Wednesday as opposed to on Sunday, even though on Monday there's also courts in session, is because we want to have several days to prepare for the wedding, right? So therefore we take Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then on Wednesday they get married. Whereas if they got married on Sunday, there wouldn't be adequate time to prepare. So, in a place where there's bezdin every single day, they still need time to prepare. So the triachle, no, he prepared. He prepared. The week before, whatever it is, he prepared. I mean, nowadays I understand that people prepare for more than 3 days for a wedding, maybe like a month or something. All right. It says the Gemara and Daf Gimel and Beis. My shakdu. What's this shakdu thing? Right? Meaning, we had mentioned it earlier on Daf Beis Umar Aleph yesterday, quoting reviewed Amar Shmuel. But where do we have a brisa that talks about this? The Tanis we learned in a brisa. How come they said that a basula gets married on Wednesday? That if she wasn't a basula and he goes to bezdin to make that point, so then he gets married on Wednesday and he can go to bezdin on Thursday. So why don't you get married on a Sunday as well? And if there was a tanis basulim, we can go to a bezdin on Monday. Well, the chacham want that a fellow should spend time preparing for his wedding, to prepare a suda, to prepare something nice for the chasana. So, echad b'Shabbos Sunday, v'sheni b'Shabbos Monday, v'shlishi b'Shabbos Tuesday, u'varvi konsa. And then on Wednesday they get married. But from the danger and on, we're going to explain what this danger is, but from the danger and on, so from the time that it became dangerous to become to get married on Wednesday, so they started getting married on Tuesdays, and the Chacham were okay with that. But he shouldn't get married on Monday. But if it's because of an onus, something that's unforeseeable, well then you can get married on a Monday, and the Gemara is going to explain what this onus is. Now, if they get married on a Friday, so then the chosin and kale do not sleep together in the same, I think, I believe not even in the same room, I think. Because if they sleep together, so then, if she's a basula, so then there may be a chabura. She may bleed, and we don't make a chabura, as we know from Masechta Shabbos. We don't make a chabura on Shabbos. If they get married on a Friday, so then they wouldn't sleep together on that Friday night. My sakana, what is this dangerous thing that we said that that from the dangerous time if it was a dangerous time, then they got married on Tuesday as opposed to Wednesday? If you're going to say that, well, they had this decree where they said any basula gets married on a Wednesday, we're going to kill her. Okay. Nagu legamar niakre. What do you mean nagu, right? I mean, if we look at the Brisa, what does it say? It says misakana va'ilek nagu ha'am lichnos b'shlishi. That from the time of this dangerous situation, the minig became to do weddings on Tuesday. Kilu, still Wednesday, technically speaking, is still a preferred day, but because it's dangerous, so the minig became to get married on a Tuesday, implying that still the ideal would be to get married on a Wednesday. But legamar niakre, if it was mamish, if that was the case, that they were saying that a basulu gets married on Wednesday, they would kill her. So then forget about it. Forget about the takana. Just get rid of the takana and let them get married on a Tuesday. That's that. So that doesn't seem to be right. Omar Rabba says, Rabba the Amri basula nises bil marvi tibor lehegmon tchila. You hear that? That these nudniks, they said that a basula who gets married on Wednesday, she first needs to sleep with the governor. Okay? So therefore, to avoid this situation, the minig became to get married on a Tuesday, and then the governor would leave them alone. Hai sakana onesu. But then the Gemara says this isn't exactly dangerous, it's just kind of an own, meaning it says that from the time of the sakana, the dangerous situation, so then the minig became to do it on a Tuesday, to get married on a Tuesday. This isn't a dangerous situation per se. It's just it's an onus. It's a terrible situation. It's something that's beyond our control. But this wouldn't be categorized as a sakana. It's categorized as an onus. So mishum deiketsnu is the masun of shayu liktala v'asan l'dei sakana. Well, no, it is dangerous because there are certain girls who would be unwilling to sleep with the governor and would rather die than sleep with the governor, and therefore it actually is a dangerous situation. V'lijosh lehu de'ones shari. But why don't we just tell them, like, look, even if you, right, meaning we said snuis, right, meaning there are women who, for, I guess, not just because they're completely uninterested in sleeping with this fellow, but meaning they're snuos, right? How are they going to be able to be with their husbands if they slept with this governor? So they said, well, why don't we just let them know that, look, onus is shari. If it was against your will, you could still be with your husband. Vikaputzis, vikanamikunis. Well, some girls, maybe if we told them that that onus is permitted, then maybe they actually might be okay with it. And now, if an arusa has a consensual relationship with somebody else, then she cannot go back to her husband, and that would actually be a problem. So we can't tell everybody that onus in this context would be okay. And vikanami kahanos, and there are also girls who are getting married to a Kohen, that, by, even if it's non-consensual, she would be unable to go back to her husband, and therefore, if he's a Kohen, and therefore, we can't just kind of say that onus is permitted. Okay, v'li akre. So how come we're saying that the minig became to get married on Tuesday? Why not just completely uproot the takana d'Rabbanan to get married on Wednesday, right? Kilu, if these governors are going to be perverts and sleep with all of the Jewish basulas before they get married, or maybe all the basulas, Jewish or not, I don't know, before they get married, well then, and he comes around on Wednesday, so why are we saying that the minig is to do it on Tuesday? Kilu, the preferred day is still Wednesday, but the minig is to do it on Tuesday. Why don't you just do away with the takanas chacham and say, just forget about the whole Wednesday thing? Like, Tuesday is our day now because of this pervert governor guy. So, friends, listen to what the Gemara says. It's mamash geval. Gizera avida devatala v'takanta derabbanan mikam gzera lo akrivan. Friends, do you hear what the Gemara just said? The Gemara just said the most gewaldige thing. Their gezeres is going to go away. I don't know. Baruch Hashem, thank God, I'm not aware of any governor who sleeps with all the besulas before they get married nowadays. In any places where I live, thank God. Their little things that they do, they don't, ultimately, in the long term, they don't last. We're not going to uproot a takana de rabbanon because of their silly little shtuyot that they have, that ultimately, in the long term, are going to be forgotten. And therefore, the takana de rabbanon, we're not going to uproot a takana de rabbanon for some kind of short-term gezerah. If that's the case, b'shlishi nami also yuval. But one second, this governor is probably a smart guy. He probably is going to realize, when I come around on Wednesdays to sleep with the engaged women, they're already married. Don't you think he's going to pick up on it and he's going to start coming on Tuesdays also? Well, misveka lo nafshe. Look, the governor's a busy guy. He doesn't have time to just spend all of his time finding young girls to sleep with. He's got important things to do. So therefore, look, Wednesday is the official day. So, he could take time out of his busy schedule to come on Wednesdays and find girls to sleep with. But Tuesday, it's a suffix. It's already, so in that case, he can't afford the time. So therefore, he doesn't come on Tuesdays. Friends, that was the Daf Gimel of Masechta Ksubis. The first part of the Daf, we sort of explored an alternative opinion of Rava, which is that that maybe if there's an onus by a get, it does nullify the get. And then we got back into sort of this concept of Besula getting married on Wednesday and preparing for the meal for the Suda and things like that. And we talked about if there's a sakone, then they can get married, and the minig is to get married on a Tuesday. And we also mentioned this concept of onus that we're going to get into tomorrow. Friends, I hope you enjoyed Daf Gimel Masechta Ksubis. Peace out.